the most common propagation problems and how to troubleshoot them. Propagation can be super easy, but it can also be challenging when things start to go wrong. It can be frustrating if you don't understand why something that should be so simple isn't working. Let's talk about some of the common problems and how to solve them when propagating your plants. The number one issue that people have when propagating plants is rotting stems. And you will know that your stems are rotting. They will get soft and mushy. They will turn dark brown or black, and they will stink. The water will stink. It will smell just like really foul and rotten, for lack of a better word. This sometimes is just caused from certain plants sitting in water and not getting good air circulation. It can be caused from contaminated tools. So if you cut like rotten bits off of a plant and then you take it to another plant and take cuttings, that can spread the rot. That's why I always suggest running your scissors or other clippers through the dishwasher or rubbing them down with alcohol to help remove any like germs that are going in between them. If you notice rot on your cutting, immediately cut it away and don't like try and cut at the rot part. Like cut a little bit up the stem on the green and remove all of the rot, 100% of it, 110% of it. You know what I mean? Like cut a little bit extra off to make sure it's fully gone. Use a clean tool and then put your scissors in the washer afterwards so they can get really well cleaned. You can kind of help to prevent this or prevent it increasing by improving drainage. If you are rooting in soil and things are rotting, then probably it's too wet in the soil. So you want improved drainage or just to dry out the soil a little bit so it's less waterlogged. And then always use sterilized tools, sterilized containers. Don't be reusing dirty soil or dirty scissors from a contaminated plant. One way to prevent rot on succulents is to allow the cutting to callus over before planting it. So that just means when you pop off a leaf on a succulent, it will be kind of like wet. You want to let that fully dry out, which just means setting it on the table for 24 to 48 hours until it has dried before putting it in the soil. This can help to prevent rot. And if you are rooting in soil, avoid overwatering. Let the soil stay lightly moist, but not soaking wet. The next most common problem is just failure to root. You put cuttings in water, you're so excited, you check in on them after a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, and there's no root development. There could be a few causes for this. One is one I harp on all the time, that unhealthy cuttings rarely root. So if you have a leaf that fell off your plant because it was unhealthy and withered and yellow, it's probably not going to root. It's probably just going to die because it's already been given up on. Sorry, that's harsh, but it's just the reality. So you want to make sure, first of all, that you are taking healthy cuttings from healthy, happy, perky plants. The next most common cause of a plant not rooting is just having the incorrect environment. So remember, most cuttings want bright, indirect light, they want warm temperatures, and they want high humidity. So if you have insufficient light, cool temperatures, or dry air, it's going to slow down the rooting, and it could just mean that your cutting never roots. So make sure you have good humidity, warm temperature, bright light. You can try adding or using a rooting hormone. When you take your cutting, you can always mix a little bit in with your water. When the cutting has been sitting for a while, it can't hurt to try to encourage growth with the rooting hormone. And always use healthy, disease-free cuttings, preferably from a plant that is growing during growing season. If you're taking cuttings in the winter or in the off season, it's just going to grow a little slower. That's just the reality. So if you think you are providing optimal conditions, then just try and be patient. Some plants take longer to root. As long as they are not rotting in the water, there is no harm in letting them sit there for months and months and seeing what happens. Another problem you could have is mold growth. So mold comes from too much water and not enough air circulation. This will be white fuzzy growth. It could be on the stem, on the leaves, or most commonly I see it on the surface of soil. And this is usually caused by really high humidity, poor air circulation, and excess moisture. So like I told you, to use a plastic bag to cover your cutting. for the first week or two. If you let it get really wet and steamy in there and stay for months on end, you're probably going to get mold. So you do want to make sure you have air circulation once those roots start to form, especially. If you see mold, you can wipe it or use a spoon to like scoop it off the soil, and you can replace it with fresh soil. But try running a fan or removing a plastic bag if you are getting mold growth, to increase that air circulation and get the air flowing. You can also water a little less because mold grows when it is warm, wet, and dark. So making it a little bit brighter, a little bit more fresh air, and a little bit drier will help to cut down on mold. Make sure the humidity is not too high, and you can also space your cuttings out so you have more airflow in between them. If they're all clustered together, that can lead to mold growth as well. And in general, here are some preventative measures you can follow for propagation problems. Sterilize your tools. Always use clean, sterilized tools to help prevent spreading disease between different cuttings. Always have optimal conditions. You want high humidity, bright indirect light, and warm temperatures for almost all plant cuttings. Avoid overwatering. You want soil to be lightly moist, but not too wet. Have patience. I know it's hard, but it takes time for cuttings to root. I have found that the more variegated a plant, the slower it is to root. I find that with pothos especially. Plain green pothos will root really quickly. Anything that's like a snow queen or like with a lot of white to it was just a lot slower to root. And always remember that adding a little rooting hormone to your soil, to your water, or my favorite is just to dip the cutting directly in the rooting hormone. It's a great way to boost the chances of success and make them root faster. Remember, not all cuttings are going to work. It is not 100% success, and that's not your fault. That's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. But following these steps will increase your odds so you have the most possible success with your rooting.